Vivian, we were talking about your family, and I'd love to hear more about your father. He sounds like he was so interesting.
He was a very interesting man, and and I'm sorry if I repeat myself because, I sit and I think about things about him. Like when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
my dad used to be a snake hunter. He used to hunt snakes with these two brothers that he met. I don't know where, but they used to go to Sterling Forest,
Mm-hmm.
and they would hunt for snakes, and they would sell them to the Bronx Zoo. They would
Really?
sell them to Space Farms. So, like, me and my sisters and my brother before he passed,
Mm-hmm.
we grew up all of our lives handling snakes. People thought we were crazy. Well, I think we're crazy right now at this age, but if I just about every picture you find of my dad or whatever, there's him with a snake.
Poisonous, all kinds.
Yes, yes,
All
yes.
kinds of
Rattlesnakes he used to sell, the copperheads, and the black snakes. Yes,
He knew how to handle them.
he knew how to handle them.
Wow.
And I realized something. I was up in my garage, the old garage where we store things one day. And my dad had this workshop he used to always work in because he used to make leather wallets and frames and things, and that's another way he tried to survive.
Really?
Yes, back years ago.
Yeah.
And people would buy them and things. So I found a diary of his,
Mm-hmm.
and I started going through it. And then, it was like kind of upsetting because seriously, when the mine shut down, all the guys had to go on it was considered a work relief program for $6 a day.
Right. And what did that mean? What did they do as part of the work relief program?
Well, they worked for the towns, or they just for the
Towns
town.
all around, or this
Ringwood,
town?
yes,
Ringwood Borough.
Ringwood
Okay.
Borough.
Uh-huh.
And I remember turning to one page on his diary, and it says, "Today's my payday. I get $3, but I have to pay that to the doctor for my baby's doctor visit." And I'm saying to myself,
Can you remember what year that was?
well, I'll put it to you this way. I think it was maybe like 1964, something around that.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about all the things that he has done, and he was a miner.
Yes.
He worked in the mines. And the white
So once the mines closed, it was like almost devastation,
everybody,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
there were so many of them that were definitely, that was really, that you're talking about an economy drop, that was
Right.
big time.
Mm-hmm.
Because my father-in-law, there was 13 children, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody had to go out and work for $6 a day.
Wow.
I mean, $6 back then was a good, you could get a lot out of it, but
Mhm.
13 children, it was rough.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember, like, my dad, he always talked about working the mines and stuff. And then, Weiss Ecology Center from
Mhm.
Stonetown section. There was a guy who wanted to do an interview with my dad one day about the mining industry.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad said, okay. So my dad did this September 13th, 1989, he said, and he
Mm-hmm.
did this interview with this guy. Well, my dad died September 20th, 1989. He died a week to the day later.
Oh my gosh.
So we didn't expect it, but the guy came and he gave us a copy,
Mhm.
of this tape. And when I listened to it, I think it's really it's so good to have these things, to actually hear him talking about some of the signals that the miners used, or, like one horn whistle might mean this or that or
Mhm.
whatever, but
Mhm.
that's another good memory that I have, That's
Right.
something to just actually hear him sitting
have
and
his
doing
voice.
this interview, yes.
Right.
And I really find that very interesting. I mean, my mom was wonderful too. She was a
Mhm.
homemaker, but my dad was just so entertaining, He
Right,
was like,
right.
he was such a happy-go-lucky man. He just,
Do you think you're like your father?
I might have been, because
Mhm.
my dad used to like to drink. When I drank, I used to like to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And sing when I know I can't sing or whatever. I didn't look for trouble. So yeah, it was like happy-go-lucky times that I looked
Happy-go-lucky.
forward to.
Right.
And
How old was your father when he passed away?
64.
Oh, he was
My
young.
dad was 64 years old
Mm-hmm.
when he passed away. So I mean, it's bad enough, my mom being 43, and then when I am 60 years old. So and then I
Right.
realized 64 is not too old either.
I know, isn't that funny
You know,
how
as
that
you
happens?
get, as you get, yeah, as you get near those ages, you know, and you're
Yeah,
like, and then I see some people, the disrespect they give their parents, is so upsetting,
yeah,
you know, and I'm like, I just wish I had a parent.
right. I guess
You
you
know.
never get over that feeling, right?
No, or my grandmother, my dad's mom. To me, her milk was law. And my sister will tell you the same thing, my sister Iris. Now, when we grew up, we had no place to learn how to swim. I don't know how to swim.
You don't.
No, because we didn't have lakes and, you know, or
Right.
whatever, anything. But my sister Iris and me still say to this day, if Grandma told us to jump up the George Washington Bridge, we would do it because that means she knows we're going to swim. You know, whatever she said.
You believed
Her-
everything
yeah,
she
that's
said.
right. Everything she said, we believed, and her milk was like the book of law, basically.
Well, it was trust.
Yes,
right? You
it was.
trusted her. Yeah.
And it was like she wasn't going to tell us to do anything that would endanger us, you know. I
Right.
mean, again, all the old remedies and everything, you know, we'd always ask, what do you do? And there's always Grandma, you know. You'd go to Grandma with the questions.
Yeah. What happened when your father passed away? Was it hard for the family to get along?
Here's the situation. When my dad passed away, it was like we weren't responsible adults.
Right. How old were you again now?
1989. Oh, geez, wait a minute, I was born 51. You know, like,
you were young. You
yes,
were
I-
young,
I-
young
yeah,
adult.
I was young, yeah.
Yeah.
Young, and then again, when you have a parent who's the backbone and who normally handles finances and everything, you know, you
Mhm.
don't know this stuff. And
That's right.
so we ran into some financial crises at that time because we weren't used to being the ones, you know, to take care of the bills and things. And it put us, you know, in some situations where we almost lost our home.
You did. Mm-hmm.
But thank God we managed to get it back, you know.
Mhm.
But then then you live and you learn responsibilities,
Right.
which we try to tell the younger ones
Yeah.
nowadays. But I'm a person that believes in life lessons, and unfortunately, that was a big life lesson for me and mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
And that really helped you then.
yes, it did. It
Mhm.
made you understand, you know, that everything life is not free.
Right.
You know, and you have to learn how to take care of your responsibilities and your bills and everything. And but as I say, I live with my sisters, and I still couldn't imagine otherwise.
Right. And you
Yeah.
all get along.
Yes, my sisters. As I said, I love my sisters more than anything. Well, I love all my family. What I mean is, I should say, I have two big sons, and they are
Yeah.
not to disrespect my sisters in my presence.
Right.
You know, that's, you know, I will not let, I don't like that.
And all your sisters probably teach their children the same.
Well, that's the way the law is written
Mm-hmm.
from our point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to grow up with some respect, and I feel like this, you know, I love them all, and I will not accept no disrespect from them.
Right.
No more than my own, you know. I don't care how big they are.
Well, it's all family.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's,
I think you should tell us a little bit about your sons too.
all right. As I mentioned before, I have a 40-year-old son.
And his
And
name is.
His name is Aaron, but we call him Chad.
That's right.
Chad, because his
Mhm.
dad's name is Aaron, and we don't like, so we call him Chad.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat and I got to thinking, Chad was 17 years old when he was going to become a dad.
Wow.
And I actually have to say, he took on his responsibility, you know, and I have to be proud of the fact that he couldn't try to think about an education. He got out there, he worked,
Mm-hmm.
and he made sure he always kept a home for his, well, was the mother of his child at the time, but ended up being his wife
Right.
and his children.
And what did he do for work?
Well, basically, he's a construction worker.
Mm-hmm.
He's a machine operator.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point in time, you had to do anything, you know, you could do to hustle to try to find work. So, you know, he did a lot of different odd jobs, but
Mm-hmm.
yet to this day, he still makes sure that there's a home for, as I said, he recently had a baby.
Mhm.
And, he makes sure that his baby has a home. So he, I have to say I have to be proud of him to take that responsibility on at 17 years old.
Yeah.
Make sure that there was always a house and food and, try to take care of the bills and everything for his wife and his children.
So he turned out to be a responsible person.
Yes, he
At a young age.
yes, at 17,
Mhm.
he was like hit in the face with a lot of responsibility, but he dealt with it, and he did what he had to do, and he supported his family, and took the responsibility of making sure they had things.
You must be very proud of him.
I have to be for that because 17 years old nowadays, people have children. Where they end up?
I know.
On it's not Jerry Springer, but Maury Povich show. You are not the father. That's all they like to do. But he took on his responsibilities.
Yeah. Well, it was probably something in your family that, your father taught you and you taught
Yes.
him.
Yes, that's the way it always had to be. There was a lot of children back.
Mhm.
I can't imagine a woman having 13 children.
Yeah, and you only have 2,
Yeah,
right?
yes, anything after 2, I think anybody's crazy. But yes, no way.
Oh. Talk a little bit about your younger son.
All right, my younger son, Jared. Now, Jared was, I remember when Jared was going to Martin J. Ryerson Middle School, he would talk about he's going to go to college someday. And unfortunately, where we grew up,
Mhm.
there wasn't no plans, where you start college funds or anything. That's not something you thought about, you had to
Right.
think about everyday survival.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking mentally to myself, okay, we'll see. So Jared got in high school. And, oh my God, did he love school? Didn't he love high school? I had to drive him to school if he missed the bus. It didn't matter if I was in pajamas or whatever. He loved school.
He wanted to go.
He wanted to go. And that was like, they were complete opposites when it comes to schooling, him and Chad, okay? But but Jared, so he started playing basketball in Martin J. Ryerson,
Mhm.
and then he played through his high school career. And, it was like, I think, well, he had said again in high school that he's going to go to college. So again, I felt, and this is not nice for a mom to think like this, but I did because I have seen so many around me that say to go to college
Mhm.
and do 2 weeks,
Right.
and it's all done and over with. So I'm mentally thinking, okay, you're going to be just like the rest of them.
You're preparing yourself.
Yes, for him to do that. But I have to tell you, I do have a lot of pride because Jared did go to college.
And he
And-
completed it.
And he completed it. He put almost 5 years into the Rimpo College, and then he graduated. And you know what? Because Jared decided, not that he don't love his family, he didn't want to live the rest of his life living in, a household filled with family,
Mhm.
and complications. He wanted to be a little independent,
Mhm.
and go out there and have his own space. And he proved that.
He
really
proved that he could do it.
Yes, he's been out there.
Did he play basketball in college?
Oh yes, yes, he played basketball in college. And not because I'm his mother, he was good. He was so good. I mean, he always put his heart into the game.
Right.
I found he was a team player. And the amazing thing is halfway through his career, he started with concentrating on going to the NBA.
Mhm.
And then he decided he wanted to be a cop, so he changed, to criminal law.
So that's what he studied?
Yes,
Mhm.
then he started studying criminal law. And upon his graduation,
Mhm.
now he's had some team players that were really good. There was a real good team,
Mhm.
but out of the whole team, Jared's the only one that received 3 letters to try out for an NBA.
Really?
Yes. And he, at that time, decided that wasn't the career he decided to take, so. And then he went and took all of his civil service testing and everything for
mhm.
the position to be a cop.
Mhm.
And he started applying at some towns, inner city actually. He started down South Jersey that way,
Mm-hmm.
and then he applied for a position on Passaic County Sheriff's Office.
Mm-hmm.
He went through the drill, everything, as far as going to the jail and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, Jared's lifestyle was a lot about his hair. Jared has had hair that's been, way down here or all bushed up here or there, whatever.
Mhm.
But
Was part of his identity.
yes, yes. When a lot of times cable TV would videotape the games,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the remarks they always talked about was Jared's hair, because they never knew it was going to be an afro or this or that, braids or ponytail or whatever. And then the day he went to Passaic County Jail, he had it bunned up like I have mine right now.
Okay.
And the inmates were making a lot of comments about him, and this and that, whatever. But anyway, him and another guy were basically promised a position.
Okay.
So Jared went and he got all of his hair cut off because he was
He was promised.
And as luck would be, at the end of that week on that Friday, the Passaic County freeholders froze the budget, and Jared lost out on that opportunity. So
my
he could not
goodness.
get hired, him and the other guy.
Wow.
And then his last stop actually was he applied for the Ringwood Borough for a position,
Mm-hmm.
and they opted to hire officers that were laid off from the sheriff's department and other areas.
What did they have better qualifications?
I wish it was a way for the borough to escape with not having to pay money to send Jared to a police academy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will be honest and upfront, I called civil rights, and I spoke to them
Mm-hmm.
on this matter. And the lady I spoke to at the time said, well, it was a good decision basically for the borough from their point of view because, they wouldn't have to take on the
Financially.
expense, yes, of sending him to a police academy.
Even though he had graduated with a degree in criminal law.
Well, it's something I'm still dealing with, and I will
Mhm.
continue to deal with because we never had a minority on the Ringwood Police Station.
Right.
And it would have been really interesting to have somebody from the upper Ringwood area
Mm-hmm.
who proved that they could take, and go through the college and get this education and do their job, but he never had the chance to have the opportunity.
Right. Is Jared the first person in your family to go to college and
Yes,
complete
Jared,
college?
yes. As I said, college wasn't something that it didn't exist.
Right.
As I said, I couldn't go to high school,
Right.
because there's things you need, and I didn't have them.
Right.
But yes, he's the first one in my family to ever go to college.
And he had the opportunity. And
Yes,
He,
well, he made the
he
opportunity.
yeah. Yeah.
I will. It was something he said, and I mean, I supported him basically, with his decisions. And
Mhm.
but I have to say, Jared made his mind up, and Jared did it. The individuals sometimes you can't help somebody if they don't want to help themselves.
That's true.
And Jared made that decision, and I
Mhm.
have to say he stuck with his decision. And
What is he doing today?
Well, he works at the Kessler Institute. He's been there for like
Right.
5 years.
Maybe
so.
you could talk about what the Kessler Institute is, just in case
Kessler
people
Institute.
don't know.
Actually, there's different sections. Kessler Institute is where they do rehabilitation for people who have like maybe spinal cord injuries or things like that.
Right.
Jared works. The part that he works in used to be the Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation,
Okay.
and Jared works with people who have actually really no mobility. So he's called a locomotor.
That's what he's called?
Yes.
Interesting.
And so he has to really work hard. They position people,
Mhm.
and he has to work hard to try to see if he can get them to help them move their
Mhm.
limbs or this or that. And as a matter of fact, Jared was he was on the news recently because he's working with Eric LeGrand, the football player that got hurt at Rutgers University.
Really?
So Jared is one of the trainers that's been working with him.
Does he like his job?
He's there, you know what I'm saying? He likes a lot of his patients because he doesn't do inpatient, he does outpatient. So,
Okay.
but seriously, there's been some complications recently, so with Jared and corporate took over.
Oh, took over
And-
Kessler Institute?
Yeah, and he said that, and it's no longer, then it was no longer the Chris and Dana Reese Foundation,
Oh.
which made things a little more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a situation that he didn't tell me much about. He deals, one thing I love about him, he deals with his own problems, his own situations. He doesn't call me to complain about every little thing.
That must be a freeing feeling for
It
you,
is.
right?
It's very. It's such a big relief because he knew I was stressed, and when he told me he wasn't working the one day,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't go through detail. And he tells me, "Don't worry about things," and he does not burden me, with his situations.
Wow.
So I find that
He's independent.
yes, he's very independent, and I find that to be such a big relief.
Yeah.
That because when you have children, we all feel the same way. We know they're stressing, or they're in bad situations, or they have problems.
Mm-hmm.
Then guess what? We have to carry those burdens too,
Right.
because we're mentally trying to think, what can we do? Oh, I hope, or whatever. But
Once a mother, always a mother?
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I
Or
tell.
grandmother or great-grandmother.
Yes. As I
Yeah.
said, one's 30 and one's 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell the both of them, it doesn't matter how old you are. A mother is a mother, and always will be.
That's right.
So.
I have to ask you, did you ever have a nickname?
I am not going to tell you my nickname.
Why
Because
not?
my kids would not be too happy.
They wouldn't?
No, because, no, not really.
Okay.
Yes, well, wait a minute, I'm sorry. A lot of people, you might hear a lot of people call me Bev. I will
Okay.
tell you that.
They call you Bev?
Bev, because one of my cousins who was, older than me, who passed away,
Uh-huh.
we had a resemblance. So some of my family members don't call me Vivian.
Really?
They call me Bev.
Isn't that funny?
And I mean, I understand that,
Yeah.
and other people are like, who are you talking
Oh,
about?
I know. I
But-
know.
See, which is,
Yeah.
it's very
Nicknames can
complicated.
be very,
Nicknames, yes, it is.
Confusing.
It is. It's a very confusing. My granddaughter Angelina.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I call her Lena, which can be a little confusing.
Right. Yeah.
It can make people think, who
Now,
you
does
talking
her do her mother and father call her Lena or Angelina?
I think they call her Angelina, to tell you the truth. But I have my other great grandchild calling her Aunt Lena. So.
Oh, that's where you
because-
got it from. Mhm.
Well, I figured I didn't want to say the whole word Angelina, so I like Lena.
It's very nice. Yeah.
So I mean, we have a tendency to take shortcuts,
I know.
instead of saying the whole name.
And
I
it's
just like it.
confusing, that I can
Yes,
attest to.
that's why you have to sometimes explain who you are really talking about,
Yeah, that's funny.
because it gets very confusing.
Before we finish up, is there anyone else in your family or in your community that you would like to talk about, or anything else that you would like to mention before we?
Oh, wow, I'm trying to think.
That's general. It's a hard question because
Well, no, it is and it
it's a
isn't.
broad
I'm going to tell
question.
you, see, because I'm at an age where I make notes and then I forget where I lose them.
Uh-oh.
Because I don't know if I mentioned about my grandmother being a midwife. I don't.
No, I don't remember that you
My
have talked
grandmother-
about it,
my
and I would have
grandma-
remembered,
All right, my dad's mom,
Uh-huh.
she was the midwife, basically in Upper Ringwood.
Really?
That's
And what was her name?
her name was Harriet Amelia, but they all called her Aunt Mill
Okay.
or Mill.
Okay.
And if you read Louis West notes and whatever, he
Mhm.
mentions about my grandmother, Mill being the midwife. Again, he knows
Mhm.
this too. She wasn't licensed,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little upsetting to me because not being licensed, her name couldn't go on a lot of birth certificates, even though we know
That's true. I wonder if midwives were licensed in those days.
some were.
Somewhere, okay.
Yes, some were. I
Mhm.
found a couple documents where her name is on them.
Mm-hmm.
See, like she delivered my sister, and I envy my sister for that, and I tell
Which
her this.
sister?
Iris.
Iris,
She
okay.
delivered my sister Iris, and I
Mhm.
tell her that upsets me. Why couldn't she have delivered me?
I know.
And again, not being a licensed, I went and I got a copy of my sister's birth record, and it says attendant at time of birth, mother. Even though I know my grandmother,
She was
delivered her.
You have any idea how many babies she delivered?
Oh my God, I am telling you, I definitely have to say 100.
Really?
Because she delivered. I mean, there's not only one person that had 13 children up there.
Right, that's true.
And I find out that a lot of people lost a lot of children before my time.
Right.
And my grandmother delivered a lot of those children, unfortunately. Recently, I was told about one that, that I do have a record where her name is on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an elder tell me to remember that day when my grandmother delivered the baby, and the baby was stillborn. And how she wrapped the baby in the blanket, and put it, opened the dresser drawer, made sure the baby was comfortable, and, until they had to make arrangements to take care of everything. But
You see a lot when you're a midwife.
She was very tender-hearted woman.
Yeah.
She was wonderful. Never, see, this is another situation that we're in. We have a tendency not to see nobody sleeping out on the streets because my grandmother would let anybody sleep in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, my mom and dad, it was passed on to them. Then they passed it on to us. So
And you're passing it on to your children, I bet.
and I now have a guest book.
I remember you
And
saying that. Yeah.
that's right. And I just sit.
That was smart.
There's no way I could imagine all the people on the stage.
Amazing.
But I don't like. We never had much.
Mm-hmm.
Now recently, he's a stranger basically, but last Sunday I had a wonderful Sunday. I had a Sunday dinner. My 2 sons were there
Mm-hmm.
with their girlfriends, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. It was one of the best Sundays that I had,
Nice.
to be able to, to cook a nice big meal and have them all there.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid who, happened to come into town, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching him. And anyway, there was more food.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, would you like to have, this food? And we observed. He was really hungry, and I was like, things like that make me feel so good.
Yeah. That you can
To
help.
Be able to give somebody a meal,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing every time where mine is coming from, but I find one, or whatever, but
Right.
that's the way I was taught. You never, ever refuse anybody of any food, or anything to eat.
Open-hearted.
Yes, that's
Mhm.
not a good position for anybody to be in, so that's the way we are.
That's a wonderful way to be.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
All
Vivian.
right. You're welcome.